It's time again for Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association and Michael Best Strategies.
Welcome to another session of Talking Trade. My name is Ken Wasylik, Managing Director of E.M. Wasylik Associates at International Business Development Company. It's really my pleasure to introduce Primadi, and I'm going to let you say your last and your family names, who is the principal partner of BI International, a global trade and investment development consulting firm based in Jakarta. BI International focuses on growing opportunities in Southeast Asia and trade opportunities with partners around the world. So welcome very much to Talking Trade, Primadi, and please, for the audience, say, pronounce your name correctly.
Thank you, Ken. It's been a pleasure to introduce myself. My name is Primadi Soerjosoemanto. I have been with BI International for about 15 years. And before we continue, I think it's there were times during my college year, master years, that I do some podcasts with in the radio, but so it's been a while ago. So now I'm back in this kind of session, but now everything is much more virtual than how it have been 15 years ago. So it's a pleasure.
That's great. So today we're going to be talking about Indonesia, and you're in the heart of it. And Indonesia is one of the largest populous countries, thousands and thousands of islands, 3 time zones, very large country, but it really doesn't get a lot of attention here in the United States. So except as a tourist destination for weddings and others in the island of, in Bali, can you give us an overview of the Indonesian economy and the major sectors, and what's the business climate today in Indonesia?
Yes, thank you, Ken. It's understandable. You're not the only one who are saying that, and not just in the US, but also in other far-flung countries. So today we will talk about Indonesia as a country itself. Actually, Indonesia is the world 4th largest, most populous country. So basically, it's right after US, the 4th populous country in the world is Indonesia. So that's Indonesia as a country, to give you the example of the population. And as for the size from east to west, it's similar. The distance similar with the coast to coast of the US itself, from New York to LA, or maybe to Alaska. But as a whole, we are the 2/3 of whole ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries, with 17,000 islands. However, population are 50% in the smaller island of Java. So Java actually is the most densely populated island in the world, and also is one of the most densely populated. If it's independent country, we will be as independent. Sorry, will be as most densely populated as Bangladesh. And sectoral wise, Indonesia is still backed up by the agricultural, also mineral resources, with in addition to the consumer business. So I'm seeing that the government put huge efforts on restructuring policy in Indonesia to bring global business, global companies in Indonesia. And the reason that they would like to see, or they would like to make Indonesia as more competitive in global presence, we will talk later. But for the past 10 years, that the development is growing, and it's easier to do business now than it was, and how it was 10 years ago. And one of the great example is the Omnibus Law, which was made in 2019 or 2020, which allow more foreigners to work and live in Indonesia. Now we also have a golden visa for specific entrepreneurs to enter Indonesia. and one of the first person who got the Indonesian Gold Visa was the founder of ChatGPT,
Oh, okay.
OpenAI,
Yeah, yeah,
ChatGPT,
right.
OpenAI. So
Well, great.
also, yeah, restricted
Yeah,
number of, and beside that, it's like restricted number of negative investment lists in Indonesia, and I think that also the number of industrial zones are greatly increased, and I believe, but in some development on the infrastructure side need to be
Mhm.
backed up by the regulation, and which was more, of course, regulation is changing, but sometimes the bureaucracy is still, like quite red tape.
Mhm.
While the other challenge is, the human resource capability, where some, global companies find it challenging to find a good talent in Indonesia.
Yeah.
So that is
Well,
my
well,
take.
thanks for that background. Gives us a good opportunity or a overview of the current situation. I was in Indonesia probably about 8 years ago, and I started seeing the changes from uh, decades past.
Mhm.
In the improvements and the very much positive business climate. So, are there opportunities for American companies in Indonesia today? I mean, obviously, there's the oil industry that's
Mhm.
very deep.
Mhm.
Are they in agriculture
Mhm.
and palm oil and things of these products? But are there other opportunities for American companies?
So actually, in terms of mid-sized American companies, uh, Indonesia is already becoming importers of in U.S. soybean, as well as like milk. The raw milk for the raw materials in Indonesia. So this already big, and the other opportunities is like. Uh, Based on our, I would say, long-term relationship with US, Indonesia is actively develop collaboration in with the so many in US. And as you can see, of course, like big companies are already here, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and the food and beverage sector is already one of the biggest opportunities for American companies who would like to enter Indonesia.
Hmm.
And in terms of like consumer industry, uh, food and beverage companies is one of the opportunities for American company, good American company, like just Subway and Popeyes were just enter this past few years, and but the one thing chicken sandwich that I would like to see is Chick-fil-A. So hopefully that Chick-fil-A would all come.
Well, okay. So if that's the case, then let me take that on as a challenge and try to contact the Chick-fil-A management and especially the International Development Group. So on that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things
Yeah.
that we had a program earlier this year talking about the decoupling of U.S. companies from China. And many U.S.
Mhm.
companies, from an importer standpoint, are taking a China plus one approach, looking at
Mhm.
alternatives through
Mhm.
Southeast Asia, Vietnam being a principal. But is Indonesia benefiting from this
Mhm.
decoupling from China, from
Mhm.
Western companies in America, Europe, and
Mhm.
other locations?
Well, you know what, Ken? It's not just Western or like say Japan companies, but even now the Chinese companies also open a factory in Indonesia in order to do business with the American one. So if that was the question, yes, Indonesia is included for the plan of Western and I would say companies or developed country companies like Japan, Korea,
Yeah,
and
and it.
I think that we see that they are having a set up entities. They are looking to enter Indonesian industrial zones, and we can see also that there is a market for everyone at the high end or middle market, and as a manufacturing base, Indonesia also has like some competitiveness as well. In this case.
Well, we always talked about apparel and maybe these low value goods, but do you see higher value goods being manufactured in Indonesia as well?
I think is also yes. We all see like in the electric vehicles. Indonesia is I would say one of the largest nickel producers, and that's why there are many electric vehicle companies who would like to enter Indonesia. Also, those on the supply chain sector in Indonesia, and but even though that Tesla choose Malaysia, but they also depend on the raw material from Indonesia itself. So the ecosystem is already here, but the challenge is to make it them to invest in Indonesia, because of course competition from the neighboring countries is already high. Say like Thailand, which has the one of the most developed automotive industry, or with the higher end business in Malaysia, which have let's say much more developed infrastructure, and Thailand as well.
Well, this is a fascinating conversation, Primadi, and unfortunately, we're running out of time here. So we could talk for probably a day on the improvements and the economic climate and the business climate in Indonesia. I've personally seen it evolved over the last years, especially with the new president, or not so new president. He's in his second term, Joko Widodo. And so I just, I just see good opportunities going forward in Indonesia, and especially trade between the United States and the country as well. So I'd like to thank you for joining us, Primadi. I appreciate your time. I know with the time difference, it's late at night for you, but this is another session of Talking Trade. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.
Okay, see you next time. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Have a nice morning, actually.
You've been listening to Talking Trade, sponsored by MMAC's World Trade Association and Michael Best Strategies.